DoorGrow Live is a conference that is like an offline version of the mastermind. So we get together, it's usually a smaller group than a massive conference, but it's larger than a call, it's in person, and it's cool to see all the profile pictures and the floating heads in person and to realize that we're all whole people with real businesses, and then to hear about our businesses. And then like today, we learned about process documentation, we learned about like physical, mental, emotional health and how 95% of who we are is subconscious. And I've gone my entire life without anyone ever pointing that out to me. And so the idea of we can get offline, we can hear about our businesses, share ideas, and mastermind together in a pretty condensed format, but also be full people and be better full people. It's super powerful, super transformative.
Have you ever been a part of any other coaching programs?
I have.
What do you think is unique or different? How does DoorGrow stand out?
Yeah, so I think being industry specific is interesting, and yet developing the whole person. So everyone in the room is in the same fight, but we're not simply like, hey, this only applies to property management. We're not talking about like how to build a super powerful lease. We're zooming out to the how, and then even more importantly to the why. I feel like we really build a lot around the why of our business, and that's super impactful. I think, and one of the things that I'm taking away from the conference, so my two big things, one is we're going to totally rework and reorder our tenant move-out process. I'm adding like 3 weeks of vacancy to every one of our properties just by the order. I heard a couple different people who have switched up that order, and they're getting like an average of 3 to 5 days of vacancy between tenants. That's so cool. We've been having a series of burglaries at our properties because some local thieves have been like, hey, if it's up online, it might be vacant. Like, man, our best defense for our owners is compressed downtime, and it's more profitable. So we can do a twofer, and so I get to go back to our owners and say, hey, with your best interests in mind, here's a process change that we've made. And that just communicates our care for them. And the other is we're gonna document our processes. And I feel like Errol walked through, like, dumbing it down, like, here's where to start, here's the process. And it being simple is the key, because you look at it and you're like, this is so overwhelming, where do you start? He just showed us where to start.
So for people that have never been to DoorGrow Live, what would you say is different about being in person, if you've experienced both?
Yeah, it's a little cheesy, but you can't hide behind the screen. So, like Ron's a great example. Like, I've seen Ron on a Telegram chat and on calls, but Ron's a whole person. He's a real person. And so by being in person, there's a slowness about it, even while our time is intentional, but there's a slowness where it just begs the question, like, dude, tell me a little bit about yourself. And getting to know Ron, who's in DC, or Willie, who's in LA, like, we now know other people who are doing this exact same thing together. Like, we're in the same industry. We might be at different stages, but we can spur one another on in ways that, like, we've been in the same groups online for a year, but a couple days being side by side gives us the opportunity to go deeper just a little bit so that we can actually spur one another on in business. Every guy in the room, I don't know their story, but I know that they're all here, and they don't have to be. And that little thing, like, it tells me you're doing a little bit more. Like, I know that everybody in this room is committed to excellence and committed to getting better, at least in some degree, because they don't have to be here. They don't have to be involved with DoorGrow. But I know why I got in, and it's because I saw some really smart businesses with some cool pricing, and I was asking the question, like, how do you find clients in property management? And all the old guys that I asked in property management said the same stupid thing, which is like, well, I mean, if your pricing's right, they'll just find you. I was like, that's not compelling. I ended up on the webinar, and I was like, yeah, Jason's got a good answer. And so I know that was my on-ramp, and I'm committed to getting better and better, and the same could be said of everyone in the room, and that's super inspiring.
What's it been like being in DoorGrow for you so far?
Yeah, man, we've been in for like a year. We were about 55 doors when we got in. We're now at 123. So we've more than doubled our doors. I have converted about 35 doors of self-managers, literally off of that like article that you sent out a while ago, like 7 reasons you might not need a property manager, and 35 doors came from that. Like, and so it was just so cool to see that. And even, it's not that I wouldn't have grown otherwise. this is a efficient, fun way to grow alongside people who are hell-bent on excellence, on like trying to get better. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is like it's a community of people who are on the same path. The DoorGrow code is kind of like a stoplight system or a scoreboard. It's a simple way to know where you are along the process of going from a startup, like dreamer, man, I someday I'd love to manage a property for someone, up to like institutional, like, man, you've got offices. And when you just look at it, that's an impossibility. Like, it's like one has nothing to do with the other. But that literally every institution, every 5,000 unit office started somewhere. 0 units, 50 units, 100 units, 200, like and above. The things that are true about a business at those level. And it's not like, hey, you're a blue belt, so these things are definitely true. But it's, in order to be a healthy, thriving company of this size, these are the things you need to have documented. These are the things you need to have in place. Here are probably your biggest threats. And so when I looked at it, like, I am technically a yellow or an orange belt with some things from the yellow and some things from like way more advanced. And that's kind of naturally how we grow, but it gives us a way to order and say, okay, I need to get these things, a little bit more mature, and hey, I don't need to focus on these things because I'm out kicking my coverage there. So it tells me what I need to shore up in order to grow. And because of that, and because of like even the people in the room, like, I've had phone calls with people who have built and sold multi-thousand door companies. Like, that's crazy. Like, I have access to these, but also have a path to say, okay, if I want to grow from where I am now to 500 doors under management or 1,000 or 2,000, these are the things that need to be worked on. I want to go in 5 years to be 1,200 doors under management and open up multiple offices. My dream for my company is to help families build multiple generations of wealth through real estate. And then to see that fleshed out with our staff, with our owners, with our tenants. Like, I want to equip our tenants to be financially capable, competent people. And I want it the same to be true of our staff. And I think that as our company grows from 123 doors under management up to 500 to 1,200, and then beyond, we'll have the opportunity to impact more and more people who are all members of communities and families. And so I think that in reality, like, anything's possible. And I'm aware that it's not as complicated as I once thought it was. It's a willingness to do the things, and I think something you said before that I love is, don't be cute. Like, this works, just do it. And like the humility to do what's proven and just keep doing it, man, it's really demystified, which is scary in its own way.
It's gotta be cool to be around other people like Jeff Garner, others, like you're seeing them do it. He's like, I'll be at 1,000 doors in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Like, no sweat. I see this for you. Like, you absolutely can do this.
Yeah.
If anybody else can do it, so can Will Fraser.
I like it. Thanks for leading the ship.